And I wanted to let you know who we are. I am Jill. I am one of your hosts, and co-hosting with me tonight is Charlene. And we also have Roland here, who is helping us present this program, and Iris. So we are all Speakers Bureau volunteers from the New Hampshire AARP Speakers Bureau. I think we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to have a few housekeeping and ground rules that I just want to share with you before we start. This is a judgment-free zone. We'd like to be able to respect what everyone has to say. So go ahead and put those comments in, and we'll be happy to try and get back to you. If you will be sure and make sure that Iris has your email and your information, you will be able to receive an email with resources that we'll be referring to in the course of this presentation. And now I think we'll go ahead to the to our next slide. So before we jump into that presentation, Outsmarting the Scam Artist, we are going to tell you a little bit about AARP. Most people believe that AARP is just about discounts and insurance. And yes, that is part of AARP, but we are actually a national organization with more than 38 million members. And we're composed of 6 legal entities. And if you look at the next slide, Roland, if you could go ahead and put the next slide up for us. Actually, the one after that. Thank you. That's the one. This is a slide showing you those 6 entities I mentioned. In the top left corner on that slide, you'll see AARP Services. That is the entity that arranges for the discounts, the insurance, and the products offered by companies under the AARP brand. The AARP Foundation, the next one on that top line, is AARP's charitable affiliate, tackling senior poverty. You're probably most familiar with the foundation's work through the tax aid program. Those folks have had a very busy early spring. AARP Inc., the icon in the middle of that screen, of that slide, is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan social mission organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With offices in all 50 states, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, this is where we at AARP New Hampshire fit in. And then additionally, across the bottom of that slide, you'll see Wish of a Lifetime. That's a program granting wishes to individuals over age 65. The Legal Counsel for the Elderly, which is championing the rights of older adults. Right now, they're only working out of Washington, D.C. And Older Adult Technology Services, or OATS, which is a technology training programs for older adults. And let's go on to the next slide. This is just to tell you a little bit about AARP New Hampshire. We've got several ways to stay connected with us. You'll see our email address right there in the middle of that slide. And we offer some free and online person events. We've got lots of virtual programming open to everyone. You don't have to be an AARP member, although pre-registration is required. And we've got a great yoga program next week, Gentle Yoga with Kathy, that I really recommend. Some in-person programs that we offer are limited to AARP members. And you can always find out what we're doing right there at that website, aarp.org/nh. And then we've also got some other nationwide programming that's referenced on this slide. AARP Virtual Community Center, that is someplace that you don't need to be an AARP member, but you will find free interactive online events designed for learning, self-improvement, and there's some fun stuff there too. And you can also browse our online learning library at learn.aarp.org. There you'll find some free webinars, events, tools, tips, and more. Now we're ready. Let's go to the next slide. And this is, we're going to tell you about our program tonight. Our job as your facilitators is to present valuable information that will help you recognize and avoid fraud. We are sharing information that has been compiled and vetted by AARP and the AARP Fraud Watch Network. We are not experts on this subject. However, as AARP volunteers, we have had training on fraud, and we are going to try and encourage you to share some of your experiences if you would like as well. Scammers steal billions of dollars from unsuspecting consumers every year. The impact on victims and their families can be financially and emotionally devastating, especially for older Americans. AARP created the Fraud Watch Network to empower consumers to spot and avoid scams and to provide support and guidance to victims and their families when fraud happens. In addition to attending sessions like this one, you can find a wealth of resources at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. So some of you might be asking, why is AARP engaged in this topic? Well, just to give you a little background on AARP, began 60 years ago when its founder, a retired school principal, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, discovered that one of her former teachers was living in a chicken coop. She was appalled that a woman who'd worked with her whole life couldn't even afford a place to live. She founded AARP to protect the financial security of older adult Americans, and fighting identity theft and fraud is part of that core mission. So to help you, could you go ahead, Roland, with the next slide? To help you protect yourself and your loved ones today, we are going to look at fraud trends, understanding how much fraud is out there and what it looks like. And believe me, it's changing every day. I mean, there's so many new ones popping up. The Con Artist Playbook. This is to help you understand the strategy and tactics used by con artists to defraud. We're going to look at some prevention techniques and strategies to avoid becoming a target. And finally, we'll be sharing those resources with you that include some up-to-date tools about fraud identification and prevention, and where to go if you or someone you love has become a victim. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Charlene, and she's going to start talking about trends and scams and fraud. Charlene, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to speak out of turn. Good evening. I'm guessing nearly everyone here today has either been approached with a fraudulent offer, or been a victim of identity theft or fraud, or knows someone who has. Well, we are not alone. Next slide, please. The top scams and fraud reported to the Federal Trade Commission typically involve identity theft and imposter scams. While FTC, oh, that's fine. No problem. So what is identity theft? Identity theft is when someone steals your personal information, like your name, social security number, and bank account information. Identity theft becomes identity fraud when a criminal uses that information to steal money. Identity fraud can include opening credit accounts in your name and racking up thousands of dollars of debt. It could also mean a scammer draining your bank accounts or applying for government benefits in your name. Identity fraud can even involve filing bogus tax returns. It's not surprising. Identity theft is a multi-billion-dollar industry. U.S. consumers and financial institutions lost $52 billion to identity fraud in 2001 alone. During the pandemic and economic downturn, we learned of millions of dollars of hijacked unemployment benefits. These would use stolen identities to file for unemployment benefits, directing the payment to themselves. Eventually, the victim of identity fraud gets a letter confirming the benefits, and that's when they learn that, and the state unemployment agency learn they have been defrauded. Imposter scams. Imposter scams involve criminals impersonating someone to coerce targets into giving them money. These criminals impersonate federal government workers, sheriffs, tech support workers, even our family and friends. The Federal Trade Commission reports that Americans lost $2.3 billion to imposter scams in 2001. We know that scams and fraud are underreported, so the losses are likely much higher. I have been a victim of a scam. When they say a friend of mine who I know very well and is a teacher, I got an email from her stating, I'm in class and I need these iTunes cards. Can you please go get them and send me the PIN numbers for my students? Well, I know her, so I went and did it. Well, come to find out, because at that time, I didn't know that when you get an email, you should always look at where it came from. And if I had done that, I would have known it didn't come from this woman. It came from a fraudulent email. So I went and did it to the tune of $2,000. So it can happen to anyone. You really have to be careful. You have to be, you can't basically trust anything. Always look at your header. The primary approach typically starts with a robocall or a live call. In a robocall, the recipient is warned of a bad situation that they must call back to address immediately. Most often, it's someone saying they are from the Social Security Administration and they see suspicious activity happening with your Social Security number. And if you don't call back the given number immediately, you will face arrest. Another common imposter scam is called the grandparent scam, where the target gets a frantic call from someone claiming to be their grandchild or the grandchild's attorney, and they need your help right away to get them out of some mess they're in. Often the ruse is for bail money. He was in a friend's car and they got pulled over and the police found drugs, and now he needs you to bail him out. Or she was in a terrible accident and the person in the other car is pregnant and in critical condition. So the granddaughter is being held for reckless endangerment and needs money right away. The target is told to wire money or purchase gift cards and read the account number and PIN off the back, which, as I told you earlier, that's what I did. And as soon as the money is wired or shared via gift cards, it vanishes. During the pandemic, criminals posed as Medicare, calling to offer beneficiaries a free COVID test. Their goal? Steal Medicare numbers and falsely bill millions of bogus claims to Medicare. They pose as the IRS, calling for your banking information to process your stimulus payment. They even set up fake testing sites, all to collect cash or Medicare numbers for administering fake tests. Now let's move on and cover several other scam types. Investment fraud, lottery scams, and tech support scams. On investment fraud, that's another common type of fraud. This is Steve. Can you move the screen up, Roland? That would be nice. So everyone can see Steve. There's Steve. He was 58 years old with a graduate degree and made his living as a successful stockbroker. He lost $40,000 to a fraudulent oil and gas investment out of Dallas, Texas. A common means of con artists in committing investment fraud is through free lunch seminars. The scammer invites a bunch of people to a seminar and then presents an unbeatable investment opportunity. You must sign up right then and there. You can't sign up later because the presenter is leaving town in 2 hours, and so is your money. Of course, this isn't to say that all free lunch seminars are potential scams. There are many legitimate businesses that use the tactic of offering a free meal to present a sales pitch to a captive audience. However, we urge you to be wary and employ healthy skepticism. Free lunches aren't happening so much these days because of COVID, though we are starting to see them again, but criminals are finding other ways to target people. You may get phone calls, emails, text messages, or you can see advertisements online or on TV and radio to call now for once in a lifetime investment opportunity. Okay, next screen. Thank you. Identity. I'm sorry, lottery scams. I know we've all, probably most of us have received an email about the Irish sweepstakes or the Jamaican sweepstakes. But lottery and fake prize scams are extremely common, and they reap millions for unsuspecting targets. Just through the third quarter of 2020, reports to the Federal Trade Commission came in at nearly 99 million. And we know that all scams and fraud are underreported, so the losses are probably quite higher. The ruse is to get the target excited. They supposedly won some huge sweepstakes. Then the criminals string the victim along, requiring continuous payments of taxes and upfront fees. Jean was one such victim. She received a call from a man telling her she won 7.9 million in the Jamaican lottery. All she had to do was pay the taxes to collect. Over a 6-month period, this man called Jean hundreds of times and convinced her to wire over $30,000 in, quote, taxes and processing fees to Jamaica. Don't ever pay a fee to claim a prize you've supposedly won or improve your chances of winning. And if someone says you won a foreign lottery, it's definitely a scam. You can't claim a prize from a lottery in a foreign country. It's against the law in the United States. That is something I did not realize. So now we know if anything comes from another country, it's against the law. So it's a good reason not to even get involved with it. It's hard for us to understand how this could happen. We'll talk later about why scammers are so successful, and hint, it's not the victim's fault. Tech support scams are another. And I think we probably, most of us have been involved in one, not that we've fallen for it, but another all too common thread is the tech support scam. This scam commonly originates in another country from a bustling call center. It can start in a variety of ways. Typically, the target gets a phone call from someone impersonating Microsoft or some other big tech company, claiming they've identified a virus on the target's device. Or the target sees a pop-up on their screen with a warning that something is wrong with their device and to call the toll-free number immediately. This second one has happened to me. I've gotten it's the blue screen of death when you're in the computers, because it's a blue screen and you can't seem to do anything. So I said, well, I knew about a scam like this and I wasn't going to get involved. So I said, well, what the heck? I'm just going to shut my computer off, turn it back on and see what happens. And guess what? My computer was fine. So if that happens to you, just shut your computer off, bring it back up and see if that blue screen goes away. The ultimate objective of the thief is to convince the target to allow him to remotely access the target's device. This allows the thief to do things like upload software that harvests the target's credentials, or to convince the target that the virus must be fixed immediately for a fee. Some thieves are audacious enough to sell the victim a bogus subscription to tech support service. Tech support scams are among the most common and they occur year-round. Now back to Jill.
Thanks, Charlene. So now we're going to talk about the con artist playbook. How is it that these criminal scammers succeed? When we look at a scam, usually it's after the fact, and it's really hard to imagine how we could have been a victim, as Charlene says. How could she be a victim of something so obvious? But the reality is that these criminals are sophisticated and typically are part of an organized crime ring with money, and they've got tools, all kinds of tools of their trade. And so when you think about that power imbalance, it's easier to understand why they are so successful. So now we are going to take a look inside the con artist playbook. Let's have the next slide, Roland. Thanks. Where did the insights in the con artist playbook come from? Well, there are two key sources for understanding how fraud works. And the first one has been jailhouse interviews with convicted con artists. And the second is analysis of hundreds of undercover audio tapes that the AARP received from law enforcement. Let's go on to the next slide. So here is just a small sampling of the tapes. Let's go ahead and play that. I'm actually not hearing it.
We're not hearing the audio. You're gonna have to go up to your settings on the top right, I think, and turn on audio.
Let's try it. Let's try it again.
Okay.
Tell me if you hear this.
No, I think that
No.
maybe when
Not
you
here.
started your screen share, you didn't turn on use computer audio.
Okay, let's look at the settings. Hold on.
Like it's on the top right, I believe.
Check it out, play ringtone.
And if not, you could just take down the PowerPoint and start it again.
Okay. I'm looking for join a meeting, press sync buttons. I'm
There's
looking
like 3 buttons, I think.
for,
I think there's 3 buttons along the top and there's a drop down.
Yep, there's a thing for select microphone. Speaker jobber. I'm looking in the audio settings and I don't see anything.
No, it's not in the audio settings. It's on the top or wherever your
Button.
taskbar is for your slideshow.
Share sound. Let's try share sound.
That's it.
Tell me if this works.
I will make up your
Yes.
mind.
Success.
All right, let me start at the beginning.
If you don't want to make up your mind right now, that's where I come in. I will make up your mind for you.
Anyway, I said I would not call unless it was a rare and definitely undervalued situation. Are you familiar with the $2.50 Gold Indian Series?
This is enough money for you to go to your grave knowing that you went and did the right thing, and you can go and meet God with a clear conscience. Now, what do you want to do?
Are you stupid? I'm not trying to insult you, but are you mentally ill? Is there something wrong with you that I don't know about? Is there something physically wrong with you? Like, are you retarded? Are you overaged? Do you forget things? Is there something wrong with you?
You'll never, ever be anything. You're going to your grave a loser. A big loser. I think you're terrible.
So these are pretty horrific calls, and people have gotten these are actual calls that have been recorded. And what they end up doing is they're focusing on getting their potential victims into an emotional state. Perhaps they're fearful, perhaps they're feeling very needy. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that emotional state in a minute. Let's go on to the next slide. Let's see, that's the one after that, Roland.
One more
Yep.
and play this one.
This is the next one that we're going to play. This is a video, and I'm just going to tell a little bit about it before we start it, Roland. And that is that we're going to be meeting Jimmy from New York, Jimmy Edwards. He is the kind of star. He is kind of the star of the scammers. He had worked in over 30 of what are called boiler rooms over an 8-year period. And these are offices that scammers use to call potential targets. Jimmy claims to have taken in $60 million in scams. His specialty was business opportunity scams. So now we're going to listen to a tape that has been made with him talking about what he did.
These are dangerous people you are on the phone with. Okay? Make no bones about it. I am a dangerous person on the telephone. If I choose to be fraudulent in my practices, there is nothing that's going to stop me from taking lots of money from people, period, the end. And there are many other people just as dangerous as me.
Wow.
Okay. We're going to go on to the next slide, Roland.
Are-
Oh,
You want to pass these by? I think this is for, we can skip this if, yes.
no, we're still talking about what he was able to do.
Okay.
And Jimmy's, when he was asked by authorities to describe, so I need that slide up that says ether on it. And that is the one that the con artists, when they describe how they convince people to part with their money, they all say the same thing: get them under the ether. So what is the ether? And ether is described as being a heightened emotional state that makes it hard to think clearly and make rational decisions. Scammers know that once they get their target out of their logical mind and into an emotional state, they have won. Now we'll go to this next slide. Here's Jimmy describing how ether works.
The crush or the kill is emotionally driven. It's not logic. If you apply logic to this concept, it's no. I'm not going to send you my hard-earned money. I don't even know who you are. I know you from Adam. When I wrap that in tons of emotion, that blurs. The logic goes out the window. The emotion kicks in. Now I have endeared you to me. Now I'm no longer the predator on the phone. I'm Jim from New York.
So that he kind of describes how he gets people to that point. Let's go to the next slide, Roland. And he's talking a little bit more about that ether, that heightened emotional state. And when he was interviewed, he described how he uses that emotion to convince people that to do things they might not otherwise do, when logic was the deciding factor. And so here you see some quotes from the interview, where he says the kill is emotionally driven. It's not based on logic. If you apply logic, you won't send your hard-earned money. But when I wrap it in emotion, it blurs and logic goes out the window. So now we're seeing how they've gotten people to this point. And let's go to the next slide, please, where we can see that scammers have a range of persuasion tactics they use. Our AARP listened to all those audio tapes I mentioned earlier, and they were coded to see which persuasion tactics were used most by con artists. So we're going to take a closer look at the 5 most common tactics identified by cons. And you can see on this slide, these persuasion tactics are phantom riches, profiling, scarcity, source credibility, and fear and intimidation. And we're going to start going through each one of those. And Charlene's going to take it from here.
Thanks, Jill. Phantom riches. Don't we all want to be rich? And the grand prize is $25,000 in cold hard cash. The Florida lottery is up to $30 million this Saturday night. If you join our club, you'll have 4,800 tickets. That's 4,800 chances to win. Phantom riches. They are something you really want and become excited about. Scammers would dangle the possibility of wealth in front of their targets. A con artist named Jeremy sold overpriced coins to seniors. He describes the use of phantom riches this way, quote, "We would tell people that gold would absolutely double in value in the next 1 to 2 years, and that the prospect would be able to rely on it making them far more money than any other investment vehicle," end quote. Next screen. If you don't mind my asking, how long has your husband deceased? Some people feel what's on their screen are friendly icebreakers or are conversational. Others feel these questions are invasive and prying and question why they're being asked. Scammers will develop a victim profile by asking a series of personal questions so he or she can find your emotional trigger. Once they know what your emotional trigger is, then they know which tactics will work with you. Here is how Jimmy describes the con artist's use of profiling to scam people. Quote, "The con gathers an arsenal of information by being personal and being friendly." Like Jimmy said, "Hey, I'm Jim from New York." They are making notes though. 2 children, one with a mental illness, one brother lost in Vietnam. They're using all that information to put together their arsenal and profile the person they are on the phone with, so they know which buttons to push to bring the emotion up to that person. Here's how Stephen described it. Quote, what I try to do when I have a victim on the phone is I try to find their emotional Achilles heel. And once I do, it enables me to use their weaknesses against them, end quote. Scarcity. We only have 4 units left on this investment offer, so you need to make a decision sooner. You will miss out. There are only 24 hours before this offer will expire, so you have to act now. How do these statements make you feel? You feel like you'll miss an opportunity if you don't act now, that someone else will get wealth and you'll lose out. Or maybe you feel like you're being pressured and that's suspicious. How many of you have seen going out of business sales that seem to last forever? Or one day only sales that happen every other week? Scarcity sells because it taps into our evolutionary fear of running out of food and water. When you think there is a limited supply of something, you rush to get it. So the con artist will try to paint a picture. That's what they have to offer is rare or available only for a limited time. Source credibility. I am a senior vice president here with an MBA. It's certified to deal with seniors. And I believe this is exactly the right product for you. What's your impression of this person? Did this introduction make you feel comfortable that you were dealing with a highly qualified person, someone who knows what he's doing? Con artists try to build credibility by using a well-known celebrity appearing successful, claiming affiliation with a reputable organization, touting a special credential or experience. Common source credibility scams include IRS and Social Security imposter scams. During COVID, scammers impersonated the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, and the World Health Organization, which is WHO, WHO. So then there is fear and intimidation. Fear and intimidation are used to scare targets into handing over money. It's not uncommon for some con artists to use threats and call targets 50 to 60 times a day. One scammer is quoted as saying, once I got a hold of a victim, I would never let go. Even when they told me they were out of money, I would never let go. Go borrow the money. Do you remember the story from earlier, one about lottery fraud? Well, when the victim finally stopped answering her phone, the scammer left threatening voicemail messages on her answering machine, such as, why don't you want to pick up your bleep of a phone? Pick up the phone when I'm calling you and stop playing goddamn games with me. Want me to come over there and set your house on fire? How does that make you feel? My gosh, that's very scary. Now we're going to go to questions and answers. So let's see if there's any questions in the material you just covered or tips of stories or stories you want to share.
I don't have anything in Q&A. And
Okay.
there's no questions in the chat. Roland, do you want to go over the couple of comments that came in?
Yes, let's go over the comments, Roland.
Sure. I got most of it is just you asking for name.
Yeah.
So I don't know, was there anything in the Q&A?
There was nothing in the Q&A. There's only 2 things in the comments, really. One of them is when Charlene was talking about shutting off your PC. Somebody said you can go Alt Control Delete to go to Taskmaster to shut it down without actually hitting the turn off button.
Very
on
true.
your computer.
Yep,
that's
very
cool.
true.
Yep.
And then the other comment was when these people call you, don't even talk to them. And we kind of all know that, but sometimes we get sucked in. Hang up on them. If you start listening, you're going to get sucked in. But that's all that's in the chat right now.
Yes, I mean, but being a computer person, I can tell you could be hacked and then you won't be allowed to do that Alt Control Delete. So that's when you're going to use the power button to shut your computer down.
Also, I want to let people know, and many probably do, but Roland, being a computer person, you would know that when you answer that phone call, if they don't say hello right away, if they're waiting for your phone call, isn't that a computer that usually then kicks in when they hear you say hi?
Yeah, that possibly could be. And now with
Right.
the rise of artificial intelligence and this chat GPT, you don't even know if you're talking to a real person. You're suspicious about a phone call, hang up on it.
Yeah,
And
That-
like Jill and is giving you all the information that you need right now. Jill and Charlene are telling you, if you're suspicious about the call, hang up right away. Don't think about it. If somebody who really needs to get hold of you, they will. If somebody's threatening to tell you that you're going to go to jail, that's a scam. If somebody says they need money right away, it's a scam. If somebody's asking for your information, your credit card information, your social security information, anything that's a personal number, it's a scam. Hang up right away. If somebody really needs to get hold of you, they will. They'll send you something through the mail or an email. And again, you can watch out for those email headings. We can talk more about that if people want.
right. And also we should know the IRS and Social Security never, ever call. It's always a letter,
Mhm.
always. So that's another thing.
They will ask for your numbers.
That's
I-
right.
Just got a question. And the question, I don't know if I know what it means. It says, are the many PACs, PACS, real that call soliciting, political action committees, of course,
Yes.
that call soliciting donations. They call and call and call again. So if Charlene or Jill, if you can answer about political action committees.
I do belong to some, I know what you're saying because I get those as well. There's, I really have to, I research before I will, if I decide to. But I would not just automatically say, oh, this is a PAC for something I'm interested in. I'm going to give you money. You really have to research that PAC because that's so true. And Roland, you probably know that as well.
Well, and I was going to agree with Charlene that if you've done your research and you've made a donation, then you don't need to respond to any phone solicitations. You just have to do as we tell you over and over again, and that's hang up.
Right.
Right. So there's legitimate PACs and there are PACs that are just set up to take your money. So like Charlene says, do your research. And if you don't really have a good feeling about it, don't give them a cent.
Yeah. Nope.
I'm gonna go on to practice. It sounds like we're all getting a lot of good practice on how to repel a lot of these
Jill,
scammers.
one quick thing before you go on. There are a lot of things popping up in the chat. We're not going to read them all. It's what people have heard. So I encourage people as we're going through to take a look at what's in the chat.
Thanks, Iris. That's good. That's very good for people to know about. And that's all part of what we're doing tonight is educating ourselves, sharing as much as we can, sharing this information so that we will all be better protected against scammers and fraud.
Now,
Research
just to mention, I did get the call today, say, hey, I'm from the police force, we're collecting money.
Oh, dear.
Never, hang up right away. That's what my wife did, say, click. Okay.
Roland, can you put the next slide up? It's the practice slide. And we, as we're talking about right now, we know that being aware of a scam helps defend against it. Research has found that if you know about a specific scam, you are 80% less likely to engage in it. And if you do engage, you are 40% less likely to be a victim. And so that's what we're all about, is educating ourselves right now. Let's go on to the next slide, please. We are going to talk about some of those common persuasion tactics that are used, and we're going to spot them in action. So this is another short video, and listen to see what is said and see if you can figure out what persuasion tactic is being used here.
Now, John, back in 1860 from the Philadelphia Mint, there were 22,675 of these coins minted. Of those 22,000, only 4 have survived. Only 4, for God's sakes. Just 4 remain at this grade.
So we just heard that one slide, and we're going to talk about what kind of tactics were being used in that little clip. If you are thinking that scarcity, which is something what we've talked about, you're right. That is where that speaker was claiming that there were only 4 coins left. And so he gets you to start panicking that if you don't buy now, you'll never get this chance again. And the way that this was an actual scam, and here's the way that that scam worked. The scammer would buy a coin for $300. Then he would sell it for $3,000 and then tell the target that the coin is going to be worth $6,000. The reality is there is nothing scarce about these coins at all. The victim does not even know that he's been taken. And sometimes this victim feels better because he thinks he has the security if the stock market or the banking systems were to fail. So one note that AARP wants to pass along to you when we tell you about this scam is that gold coins are not very well regulated in the United States. So that is a scam that you have to be very alert to and be very careful to watch out for. So we've got another one to share with you as well. Let's go to that slide.
Following is a paid advertisement for John Beck's newly updated free and clear real estate system. The average home in America now costs more than $219,000. But you're about to learn how you can start buying homes like these for just a few $100s and own them free and clear with no additional monthly payments.
Hi, I'm Michelle Boudreau. The homes you just saw and the many examples you'll see throughout this program were all purchased for literally pennies on the dollar, using the amazing secrets found in John Beck's free and clear real estate system. The secrets behind John's system are strategies that most people don't even know exist. Unique strategies that take full advantage of today's real estate market to purchase homes all across the country for as little as a few $100s. And John's strategies don't just apply to homes. They apply to all kinds of real estate. For instance, you could buy home sites ready to build on in lakefront communities for as little as $10. And listen to this. The purchased for amount shown for each property you'll see today, like this home that was purchased for only $521.56, is the amount paid to own each property free and clear with no monthly payments.
Coming up, you'll get to meet John Beck, the creator of the amazing free and clear real estate system, and learn how you can start using his system right now to purchase properties all across the country for just pennies on the dollar.
Thanks, Roland. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So now we're going to talk about another one of those persuasion tactics. And this one, which is being used, is the phantom riches tactic. These claims of unlimited wealth are designed to get you excited by the prospect of huge returns, and your logical reasoning goes out the window. So it's important to note here that this was a real commercial, and the FTC won judgment against Beck for this quick get rich quick scheme, which hurt a lot of consumers. So how did it work? For $39.95, you received a kit that showed you how you could go down to the courthouse and identify houses in foreclosure. Only a little catch here, the fee was recurring, which consumers were not aware of. And the company also convinced many of these victims to buy into personal coaching systems. So another thing to point out here is that you can find out about houses in foreclosure without having, you can just go to the courthouse and find that out. You don't have to pay $39.95 to find that out. So we are going to go on to the next slide. And this is a slide that we're going to show you. It's our last example, our last video that we're going to show you, and it uses several of the techniques that we have been covering this evening. Watch this video and keep in mind some of those techniques we talked about. AARP created this video for demonstration purposes, but it's very similar to one you might see on TV, especially for somebody who watches a lot of that late night programming. So let's go on to the Well, let's go ahead and play that video.
Gentlemen, I have to tell you that I have never seen anything that we have ever offered here on the Smart Shopping Network that is getting the response we are getting tonight for the Miracle Shim. Look at that. Isn't that attractive? And if you have a chair or a table at home that's a little tipsy, and I bet a lot of you do, there is no better product you can find than the Miracle Shim. Now, look at this chair here. A little tipsy, isn't it? You probably have one like it. But you just slip one of these little beauties right under that chair or table leg that's not quite touching the floor as well as the others, and voila, problem is solved. Now, isn't that something you need just about every day? Yeah, I know I do. These are the same shims used in the White House, Buckingham Palace. The Taj Mahal has lots of them. You know, Princess Diana, it is said, would not sit at a table until it had been specially leveled with Miracle Shims. She had a guy with her, went with her all the time. He had a bag full of shims. True story, true story. Now that is class. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. You cannot find Miracle Shim in the stores. You just can't. They're not available in stores. They're not available from anywhere but right here, right now, from me. And they're not gonna be here long either, believe me. If you were lucky enough, though, to find them, you would expect to pay over $200 for a set like the one we are offering here tonight. But that's not what you will pay if you order right now. No, we are offering the Miracle Shim for just $49.90. Did you hear what I said? Or 5 easy payments of just $9.98. Now that is more than half off the list price. And again, it is just $9.98 regardless of whether you want the cedar, the pine, the oak, or the hickory. Now that is just unreal. I have these at my house. I also gave a lot of them as Christmas gifts this year too. My mom loves hers. You know what? She got the cedar set, and she doesn't have any more tipsy chairs or tables. She also doesn't have any more moths. Okay, I'm told the hickory now is really selling like hotcakes. So let's take a look at the counter, and whoa, my goodness, over 12,000 sold just since I've been on the air. These sets sold out completely last time we had them on the air, so I'm not surprised by that. We have got Bernie from Normal, Illinois on the line. How are you, my friend?
Hi, I just called to say that I love my Miracle Shims.
Do you now?
I just bought 3 more of them tonight.
Whew, 3 of them?
Yeah, and my neighbor's trying to get through to you right now to buy some.
Well, you better hurry, because I'm told the cedar just sold out.
I bought one for my wife. Our anniversary's coming up.
Well, your wife has herself one thoughtful husband.
Yeah, well, you know, it sure beats buying a new dining room set.
Well, thank you, Bernie. And, you know, he raises a very good point, folks. New dining room set, several $100s. You want to impress your friends? You want to feel real elegance in your life? For only 5 easy payments of $9.98, as the kids say, that's a no-brainer. But I'm being told now the Miracle Shims are all sold out. They are all gone, except, you know, for this one here, under the chair. Oh, wait a minute, I just thought of another one we've got right under the table here. We'll sacrifice that, but you better call now before it's gone too.
So I think this video is a hoot. It's really funny, but it does have a lot of the tactics that we've been talking about tonight are being used there. And one of those would be scarcity. You saw the timer with the time running down. You saw the products were being sold out. You saw those, you know, amazing numbers come on the screen. Social consensus was another one. We heard that the product sold out the last time, and we saw the large number of orders today. We heard a personal endorsement. If all these people are buying the product, it must be good, right? And then source credibility. Product is used at the White House, the Taj Mahal, and Buckingham Palace. I love that he mentions to Princess Diana, who wouldn't sit at a table that wasn't leveled by a Miracle Shim. So these are pretty credible sources and places, making someone think, oh gosh, that product must be good. And you could even make a case that phantom riches are being employed here. Even though it isn't a huge windfall, the reduced price is certainly another form of enticement. Now, all of this was in fun, but you can see for yourself if you want to take some time and look at some of the home shopping networks on TV, you can see they're using a lot of these same tactics all the time. Obviously, they're not scamming, but it's the same kind of tactic, persuasion tactic to get you to purchase things. Now I think we're going to turn it back over to Charlene, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about strategies.
Yeah, so we're going to take a look at what we can do to spot and avoid scams. There are a number of things you can do to protect you and your loved ones from the tactics that scammers use. 1, avoid making a financial decision in a heightened emotional state. 2, do your research. Only donate to a charity you already know and trust, or only if you research the charity to make sure your money is going to the cause you care about. If someone is trying to get you to invest your money with them, look them up. If they aren't registered, they aren't legitimate. The websites listed are good sources for research. 3, be mindful that scammers are adept at using robocalls, email, text, and even social media posts in convincing ways. Don't rely on caller ID to verify who's calling. Let your calls go to voicemail or your answering machine. You can call back the people you know and trust. Be mindful that scammers send fake emails and texts by getting you to click on a link or share sensitive personal information. Engage your inner skeptic before responding or reacting. 4th, develop a refusal script to stop unwanted interactions. It's a great way to end a conversation. Simply saying no, thank you, goodbye is a useful refusal script. So add to the resource sources is investor.gov and video. www.investor.gov, additional resources, spotlight how we trade. We'll talk more about those later. Next one is, here are some additional ideas and resources. Only share your social security number and other sensitive personal information with those you know and trust and who need it for a specific reason. Don't share this information with someone who contacts you out of the blue. Shred sensitive information. I know we hear about all those data breaches where our sensitive information is exposed, but there are still dumpster divers out there looking for account statements and the like to commit identity fraud. Review your financial statements carefully. Contact your creditors. If a bill doesn't arrive when expected or includes charges you don't recognize. Consider banking with your financial institution online or with their app if they have one. This way you can look at your transactions whenever you want. You can also set up alerts to notify you of account activity. You might want to consider placing a free fraud alert on your credit reports. A fraud alert will make it harder for someone to request another card, or open a new credit account in your name. A business must verify your identity before it issues new credit in your name. Simply contact one of the 3 major credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, and request a fraud alert. That agency will communicate it to the other 2. Unless you were a victim and reported fraud, the fraud alert will expire after 1 year, after which time you can renew it. Do consider that a fraud alert may not protect you if your personal information has been compromised. If a fraudster applies for credit giving his contact information, the business would contact the fraudster to notify of a request for credit. A credit freeze is more stringent. It restricts access to your credit report, which means you or others won't be able to open a new credit account while the freeze is in place. You can temporarily lift a freeze if you need to apply for credit. Each credit bureau has a different method for doing this. When the freeze is in place, you will still be able to do things like apply for a job, rent an apartment, or buy insurance without lifting or removing it. A credit freeze lasts until you remove it. Also, you are entitled to 1 free credit report each year from each credit bureau. To get your free report, go to annualcreditreport.com or call the number on this slide. Let's see other ways you can protect yourself. Oh, did I miss one? I missed one. Sorry about that. Additional ways to protect yourself. Keep your device's operating system update. Always install an update when you are prompted. as the new version may replace a version that criminals could exploit. That goes for devices security, such as a firewall, antivirus software, and anti-malware. Make sure you're running these programs and keeping them current. Protect your passwords. Don't share them with anyone. And if you write them down, store them safely. Use a unique PIN or password for each account you have. I know it's hard to do that, but if a scammer cracks one password word that you use on multiple sites, he has access to all those accounts. You might want to consider a password manager. This is a tool that creates and safely stores unique passwords for all of your accounts. You can look up information online to find one that may fit your needs. A password manager is probably the best to have because they want you to have unique passwords for each online account, because then the password manager safely stores your passwords for each account. So each account can be different and you don't have to worry about remembering them. Okay, next slide. Fraud tactics are constantly changing and evolving. We'll be sending you the resources we've mentioned during this presentation and other ways to connect with resources after the presentation. However, there is an excellent resource we want to mention now. Before that, if you do want these resources, please in the chat, give us your email addresses so we can send it to you. The AARP Fraud Watch Network is a great resource, free to all, to keep up on the latest scams and fraud protection resources. Visit aarp.org/fraud watch network, all one word, for news and information, to sign up for scam alerts and to tune into the hit podcast called AARP's The Perfect Scam. It's an award-winning show that takes you into the inner workings of scams. If you want to report a scam, find out if something is real or fake, or for help if you or a loved one have fallen victim to a scam, we invite you to call the free AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline, where you can connect with trained fraud specialists. The number is 877-908-3360, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Charlene, I want to jump in one quick minute.
Sure.
We do not need people to send their emails. I don't want everybody typing in their emails. We have them from when they signed up.
Okay, sorry about that. All right. Okay, you don't have to be a member or certain age to call. In addition, the next slide, in addition, the AARP Fraud Watch Network and Volunteers of America have created a new program to help you. It's VOA/REST, which stands for Resilience, Strength, and Time. The program is designed to address the emotional impact of your experience. We offer free, facilitated peer discussion groups that seek to provide emotional support for you and others in similar situations. Family members are invited to participate at your discretion. Free online 1-hour sessions led by trained peer facilitators are offered by Zoom. You can attend one session or more. Sessions are open to anyone across the country of any age to speak about their own personal fraud experience or what they are experiencing as a loved one supporting a fraud victim. You do not have to be an AARP member. Advanced registration is required through a third-party support group platform called heypeers.com. How does it help? Lower stress. Lower stress by practicing lower stress by practicing intentional breathing and focuses on the body. Allows people a safe, confidential space to talk about the challenge they're facing without concerns of embarrassment or criticism. Connection to other victims, loved ones of victims, can help reduce isolations and help participants realize that there are others going through similar situations. Okay, so now I am going to one more conclusion. You've heard some good information today about the kinds of scams going on and the ways you can protect yourself. We reviewed trends in scams and fraud. We got inside of the mind of a scammer with Con Artist Playbook. We discussed common persuasion tactics scammers use and practice spotting them. And we provided tips and resources so you can protect yourself from fraud and scams. To continue your learning on this topic, make sure you check out the AARP Fraud Watch Network. If you've learned something new today, please share it with your circle of friends and family to help protect them too. And remember, if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. Okay, I'm giving it back to Jill.
Great. And I think we had a question. Did you want to bring that up, Roland? I think we had a question come up.
I don't have anything in the Q&A.
Is that in the Q&A?
Yes, let's see. It's actually in the chat here about going to a password. If I go to find a password manager, how do I know the site isn't a scam?
If you go to a legitimate password manager like 1Password or Dashlane, and you know you're in the right place if it says 1password.com or dashlane.com, you'll know you're in a good place. Those are the two that I recommend. As a matter of fact, I'm just set up 1Password for an organization I work for. It's fast, it's easy. You can make really strong passwords, and all you need to know is your 1Password to get into the vault.
And Jill, I think that there are trusted sources out there, including AARP, but things like PC Magazine or whatever, that people can use to research and find out what they think is best for them.
Thank you.
Kind of what we usually advise.
Yeah.
That's what AARP tells us to tell them about password managers.
Yes, all good information. So we've gone a little bit over, and we just have a little bit to tell you about in our conclusion. So we'll just go on to our next slide, Roland. And we're getting ready to close it out. And we just wanted to thank you all for being with us tonight so that we could present this information. And thank you all for participating and sharing so many good tips in the chat. Here on the screen right now, we have several different ways that you can contact us at AARP. And we also we'll be emailing you some information and tips. And you will also get this information on how to contact us at AARP as well. AARP New Hampshire has a wide range of Speakers Bureau presentations that we offer free to groups and organizations. And we're doing a lot of these presentations in person now. We will also do them virtually, but we are really happy to be out and speaking to real people in face-to-face again. It's been great. And you will get a list of those presentations as part of the resource material that you'll be given. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you'll join us again at some future AARP New Hampshire presentations. And finally, we're going to go to our last slide, which is a slide that is showing you the founder of AARP, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. And we have one of her quotes. She had a lot of great quotes. This is a good one. We learn the inner secret of happiness when we learn to direct our inner drives, our interests, and our attention to something besides ourselves. So if you are interested in joining us in the Speakers Bureau, if you're interested in volunteering with a great group of AARP New Hampshire volunteers in any other capacity, please get in touch with us with that address that you see on the screen. And we'd love to have you be part of our team. And tonight's team was Charlene, Roland, and Iris. And we all thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of your evening. And thank you so much.